So thanks for joining us, everybody. Talking with Don Raymond, and we were talking about how gardens aren't something you see at homes anymore. Years ago, growing up, I know as I was growing up, you probably didn't go buy a house that didn't have a garden. I grew up luckily on a potato farm, and my other grandparents had huge gardens. My grandmother, Mrs. Malmborg, most of you know her as teacher in school, she had gardens that were just the envy of everybody, myself included. So that really rubbed off on me. So we just moved homes a couple years ago, and for years we've sold vegetables. And I love fresh vegetables. I love seeing people enjoy fresh vegetables. So we started some gardens at our house. It's a big job, and that's kind of the point behind this video, is showing you what you can grow around here, how things grow around here, and kind of how to get started. Now, mind you, you don't have to start like I started. I've been doing it for a long time. I remember selling my first pound of peas, and I was 11 years old. And it just was the help of my grandparents. And of course, when you have a grandfather who's got, 300 acres of potatoes, you know what growing stuff is all about. So yeah, don't try to be like what we have going on here at the Malmborg house, or as we call it, the Malmborg family farm. So we're just kind of going to show you what we got going on. We've got everything from raspberries started to string beans to beets, Swiss chard. We've got some things that are not even accustomed to most gardens. We've got asparagus, we've got dill, we even got flowers. So, and there's a story behind the flowers. We'll get to those when I get there. It's the reason I plant these specific ones. Garlic, we farm garlic. That's my biggest thing to farm. And the garlic this year did exceptionally well. We've had an exceptionally well growing season, exceptionally great growing season. But I think what's important to know is you're not always going to have those. We don't always have those. I'll show you an example of, if this was what my garden was, I probably would have gave up this year. So I guess we're just going to we're going to move over to the garlic. We'll start there, and we'll kind of show you what garlic is all about. The reason we're going to start there is because right now we're August 1 tomorrow, and this is when you pick garlic. It's been planted for I would say 9.5 months. You plant it in the fall. It grows a little in the fall, freezes, goes into a vernalization cycle where it that freezing helps it split and all do this cool stuff. I'm not technical like that. I just know the cool terms once in a while. But we'll show you that because it's that time of year, and then we'll go on to everything else. So let's go check out the garlic real quick. So here you're going to see a small part of the garlic patch. On average, we might have 4,000 to 5,000 garlic planted every year. Started with 89, and saved my own seed. This seed was some of my grandmother's, of Mrs. Malmborg's, and she saved it for years and years. Her and Rod Medor were kind of the go-to garlic people in the St. John Valley. Of course, old teacher friends, so they had a lot in common there. But I learned a lot from both of them. Last year, in 2023, that was my year where I could mark my calendar as I did something I never thought I would do. And I sold 30 pounds of garlic to Rod Medor, the garlic man. So I took that as the compliment of my life when I'm now selling to the garlic man himself. But you'll see here behind me, this is part of the garlic field. Up to my right, we've got another small garlic patch, and it's been growing, like I said. You usually plant it just after potato harvest is kind of a good guide to when you plant garlic. And till the garden real nice, you want some fluffy soil. It doesn't have to be ideal soil, it's not fussy. You plant it a couple inches deep, 6-7 inches apart. I do a couple, 2 or 3 rows side by side, maximize as much room as I can, because like I said, when you're planting in the thousands, you need to use up as much room as you can. Once they're planted, covering them is kind of a key. Leaves, straw, grass clippings, never hay. A lot of people sometimes will mistake straw and hay, but you want the hay straw because there's no weeds. So you'll see where this is super thick, but the reason for it is, look at how the ground stays wet. I mean, you've got your worms in there, but just the fact that your ground is staying moist, that's what you want. You want your ground moist, your garlic will grow better. I don't fertilize my garlic. This is all natural, no pesticide, It does great. Garlic also adapts to its area. So this has been grown here. So I'm 42 years old and my grandmother had it going for 20 years before that, plus. So this is 70 years of growing here in the St. John Valley. So it is really adapted to its area. It's a German extra hardy type. It's a large type. So we're still a little early for picking, but you'll see kind of the key when you want to know when is it time to pick my garlic. So you judge bottom up, not top down. So you'll see here where there's one leaf here that's dry. The rule of thumb is 3 leaves. As your 3rd row of leaves dries, time to take it out of the ground. So by the judging of it, we still got about another week or so to go. But it's getting close, and it'll happen overnight. It's kind of funny where you just think, oh, I got another few days, and then you go out and it's too dry. It's never too dry, but you want to have as many wrappers on as you can. It'll store longer. But even prior to that, you'll see here on the top where this top is cut off. So what comes out of here is called the scape. So this is a scape that I had cut. It would have grown like this. You snip those off. I do randomly forget a few because, you know what, it's hard sometimes. So this is what a scape looks like when it comes out of the ground. Up on top you can see that it's actually a seed head. So if you were really patient and you wanted to start garlic from day one, square one, you come in here and this is all nice. I don't know if you can see that, Don, but that's all little cloves of garlic. You could plant them. It'll take you 5 years to get a full clove of garlic, but it would come. I would just recommend buying or getting some full cloves. So you snap those off. The reasoning behind that is it's supposed to put all the energy of growing into the bulb itself, not into seed production or that scape production. So does it work? I think so. I've been told to do it by my grandmother, by Rod, by TV, by Google. So you know what? We do it. I think it works. But we'll pull one for you guys. So what's not the cool thing about garlic, it's got a massive root system. So usually I don't like pulling when it's dry because sometimes they can break. So mind you, we've got basically 1.5 that are dry. I'm gonna wait till this one's fully dry. Garlic this could grow an extra 1/2 inch here in the next week. If we would get rain, it would easily grow a 1/2 inch. But usually after I pick them, I kind of like to just show them off, especially if I'm going to sell them for consumption and not seed. There's just something to be said for having your garlic looking like that. And I mean, that is kind of a prime specimen. You'll see where you have your cloves. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 cloves. That's 1 clove. They're huge cloves, not like what you might see in the store. In the store, what you're usually getting, it's called soft neck garlic. This is a hard neck garlic, and you can see where you can't bend it. Soft neck garlic is what you've probably seen in magazines or on television, where they'll actually braid the garlic together. That's soft neck. You're not braiding this. It'll snap before you braid it. So again, plant in the fall, likes water, loves to be covered. You pick it somewhere first week of August. When it comes to picking, I pick, and to dry, they say the best way to do it is just like this. Leave it like this. Sorry, but I don't have space for that. So when I get them up to the house, I snip the root off. Not too close because you don't want to ruin the root plate for the next year's seed. So yeah, you cut it there, and I leave a few inches, and then I'm just storing this right here. And I'll tell you what, I've still got garlic from last year right now, and it's just as nice as could be. So don't be afraid, try something different. It grows great. If you've never tried garlic, it's not what you might be thinking. It's not hot and spicy and burn your face off. Make yourself some fresh mashed potatoes, no salt or pepper, just put in a clove of garlic. You'll thank me later, I promise. So yeah, this is some garlic growing tips for you guys. I guess now we'll move on to some of what it's like to start a garden. So we'll go show you guys what that looks like. So starting a new garden, it's not rocket science. Don't overthink it. It's as easy as turning the ground over, plowing the ground, tilling the ground. The new way to do it, smaller property, doing a raised bed. I don't have the time for a raised bed because I got too much stuff. But you'll see here behind me where I took my rotary plow and I turned over the ground. And this is going to be new garden for next year. What you're seeing on top of it as well is some old house plants, some potting soil from different spring flowers. So I put that in there and till it in. It makes a great amendment to the soil. I got to pick out some of the garbage that's in it, but we just threw those in there. And in a year or two from now, it's going to make a really great garden. I'm going to mix some straw and leaves into this. And once you get the leaves in there, those really start to break down and make something awesome. But I tried making something really good out of this garden this year, and I got slapped by Mother Nature saying, you have enough on your plate, don't worry about this garden. So that can happen to you, don't worry about that. And for example, if you've ever grown Swiss chard, it's like spinach, grows anywhere, so it'll grow on a hot top driveway. But this is just something to make you feel good that it's okay if you don't do well your first year, because it just might need a second year. There's a few weeds, but you know, you can see how it's yellow, pale, translucent, just very pitiful looking. Next year, I know it won't look like this, and we'll show you another garden where there's an established garden and the big difference, just a massive difference. So just don't overthink it. I know we have peas in an upper garden here where they should be half my height, huge, and I'm pretty sure if Dawn gets a close-up of it, you'll see where they're, I don't know, 6-7 inches tall, and they look like they definitely need a daily vitamin. So don't be upset if your stuff doesn't grow. It'll happen. But don't let that also stop you from growing a garden, because I'll tell you what, it's so rewarding. A little frustrating. You'll see in the other gardens too, a lot of people comment, how come you don't have weeds? Well, there's a few things. When you're walking to your garden, don't just walk to it and talk to your plants. If you see a weed, pull it. The Swiss chard, I have some weeds here, but it's because I'm not doing anything with this year. This will just turn into a cover crop basically, and I'll till it under. But anytime I'm down in the gardens, if I see a weed, I bend over, I pull it out. Don't make it a chore of, I have to go weed the garden today. You have to just make it something you do when you're going down or walking over to your garden. Mulching works great. Grass clippings, straw, leaves, that actually reduces your weeds to almost nothing. Cardboard. Put cardboard down in your walkways. Cover them with cardboard. I tell you what, you won't regret it. It works great. So while we're right here, if we're going to start moving into showing you some established things in the garden, first thing I had this year, and I've never had great luck with them, is cucumbers. Well, who doesn't like a fresh cucumber? So I did burpless cucumbers this year. I made a makeshift trellis for this year. So these were put in as transplants, and I never have good luck with transplants. They always seem to have some transplant shock. This year they didn't. So I think right over here, I can show you. So here we've got a prime specimen. This is what you'll usually see in the nice little 4-packs at the store on a styrofoam container. Burpless cucumber, and right there, it's better than candy. You know, there's nothing like it. They love lots of water. You can't water them enough, and it's been dry the past couple weeks, so that's why they're a little on the shoddy side. But it's coming. We'll get some water. The other thing too is I planted it on the edge of where my new garden is, so the ground is a little softer. You can see where it gets wetter as we go down. And that's what you want. You want to see some moisture down there. You want to just see it turning brown. You can see the chunks of leaves all broken down in there, just showing that we're on the right track. So it's coming. And I know the first picking I had, just out of a row this size, our first picking, we had 104, 105 cucumbers overnight. And now picking, I don't know, 30 to 35 a day. You know, they sell quick, they're good, they're just the perfect midnight snack. So we go through quite a few here at the house. So that's where we're going to start off. The next part of talking about gardening is established gardening and things you can put and how you can do them. So that's where we're starting with cucumbers. Let's go on to to some string beans and some beets and Swiss chard now. So now we're in one of the established gardens. So if you can tell from the video, things are a little greener here, a little more lush. On the end, I started off, I said, where am I going to put my squash this year? So I threw some beautiful Sweet Mama Buttercup squash in the end. They're doing fantastic. If you pan over here, I think I can get you in on one. So there's one right down in there. So that's how they start off. That too will take off with some rain. They're making what they call runners right now. So what I did last evening is, again, I was taught this by my grandmother. So your end of your runner, it'll just keep going and going and going. You snip that runner off. Snip the end off. Now it's not worrying about making plants anymore. It's making squash, or it's making pumpkins, or whatever that vine might be. You could even do it with cucumbers. So you cut those off. Now it's pushing all the work into the plant now. With that being said, next we got some beautiful string beans. I love green string beans. They're doing fantastic. This is, if I can show you inside a plant, Don, I think we got some here. So you can see where they're ready for picking. Perfect for canning. We make a lot of dilly beans and stuff. So you can see how lush the row is. And then, Don, you can show them. This is another learning curve to where gardening doesn't go as planned all the time. And I'll walk down to it. I found out that Bambi is a very avid gardener and does a great job at trimming. So luckily the flowers are all there, so I actually still might get just as many or maybe even more string beans out of this, but my little Bambi population did me a number. Beets, beet greens, Swiss chard. That's some St. John Valley staples for sure. So get some beets. I haven't pulled any weeds over here or thinned them because it's been so dry that I didn't want to disturb them because it would pull up too much of them. But they're just, I'll pull a couple out for you. So at this time of year, there's your beet greens. We sell them just like that. We clean them out real well. Everybody loves it with a little beet on the end. Sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't, but either way the green is just fantastic. So we sell them by the bunch. Swiss chard, we got Swiss chard here. Swiss chard is a true St. John Valley staple. You see it everywhere, but you don't see it grown anymore. But people still love it. So we grow some gorgeous Swiss chard, and look at the difference from the pale stuff we had in the other garden, the new garden, to this. It's just night and day. All are easy to grow. Inexpensive to grow too. I mean, a little pack of Swiss chard is $1 or $2. I mean, it's really cheap, and for what you get out of it, or you can buy it. It's also, I mean, you buy a whole bunch, get a couple meals for $6. So really inexpensive. But yeah, so it's just easy to grow. You'll also see that this is 2 rows of beets, for example, right here in front of me. They're close together. Why would I do that? Well, weed reduction. Closer they are together, they kind of drown out the weeds, and that way if I do till, I don't do a lot of tilling, but when I do, I just go through the middle of the walkways, and you know, it takes no time at all to do some weeding. Every once in a while, you'll see here, weeds happen. Anybody who knows gardens knows this weed in particular, which is about to go to seed, but we've got lamb's quarter. For those who have some French heritage, it's your poulet gras. Makes a heck of a soup. My grandmother, Karen, she makes the best soup out of this that you could even imagine. You know, potatoes and this and some cream, salt and pepper and sugar and a little flour. But you've never had a soup like it. Also great sauteed. I mean, saute it up a little bit. It's amazing. This one's gone to seed, so you wouldn't cook with this one. But I don't like it in my garden. So if you ever feel bored, you come on over and I got plenty you could pick out. I don't mind that at all. So yeah, so this is what an established garden looks like. String beans, beets, and Swiss chard, some squash. I've got squash on both ends. We got another semi-finished garden that we'll go to next. We'll show you what some sunflowers. We got some sunflowers in there. Sunflowers are a great way to beat up your soil from the bottom up. It breaks up the hard pan. So sunflowers have a very big tap root. So by planting sunflowers, you're going in and you're drilling into that hard pan. If you might have some cruddy soil, like here, this is very clay. It's not good soil. I always tell people I'm growing in a gravel pit, but I'm making something out of it. So by planting sunflowers, it helps break that up. Plant some oats, some wheat, whatever, barley, and then don't let it go to wheat and barley. You plow it under and it acts as a green cover crop and breaks up the hard pan. So we'll go show you what that is, and then we'll show you some carrots and a few other little things that you may not always see around. So here's another established bed. This one's a little different. I started this one this year. It was obviously better ground. It's loaded. We've got potatoes, 3 rows of green beans and another row of potatoes on either end. You'll see in the middle there's a volunteer pumpkin, because something I do is when we're in the fall we have pumpkins for decoration. When they're done, in the garden. Well, there's always 1 or 2 little volunteers, so that's what you see in the middle and on the end and on the end, and they really volunteered well this year. Potatoes. This is a red potato with a yellow inside. I've been keeping my own potato seed. This I've kept for probably 15 years. So again, doesn't have to cost you a lot to garden either. You can save your own, get seeds from somebody. I would never recommend planting potatoes from a store-bought potato, because they've probably been treated with an anti-sprout agent of some sort, so you'll be very depressed when you plant them and they don't grow. But for supper tonight, we're going to have some new potatoes and Swiss chard. So let's pull one. And again, we're super early, and super dry. This garden is like absolute baby powder, but that's okay. And they haven't been hilled, so it's super early, but it's definitely, if you've ever had a new potato, like we refer to it around here, you're probably not going to find any better treat, maybe aside than a new cucumber. So they're really on the right track so far. They've only been in, these were really late planted. So the fact that there's any at all, that's really doing great. We're only a few weeks in that they've been growing. So that with some Swiss chard tonight, it's going to be a great little treat. So try some potatoes, try some different ones, because you know what, they're fun to grow. So let's go check out some carrots and some squash now. Who doesn't like a fresh carrot? Hard to beat. It's not something that's hard to grow. The thing with carrots is it can take a while for them to germinate. If it's too dry, they don't germinate. If it's too wet, they don't germinate. If it's not sunny enough, they don't germinate. It's kind of like a Goldilocks thing. It's got to be just right. So one trick I learned is I make my bed. You can see how they're on beds, and that kind of keeps them up, gives you that depth you want them to grow in. I incorporate a lot of leaves into the ground and make my little trench on the top. I make some nice little lines in the soil, and I just sprinkle my seeds on. And because you don't want to have to be spending time thinning too many carrots, because it's a job. Your back will thank you later. But what I learned was you plant your seeds, water them with a watering can, because I don't have that many, so it's not that hard to do. And then take cardboard and set cardboard on top of your row for about 5 days. Pull your cardboard off, and they're almost determined the next day to be out of the ground. So it keeps that moisture under there, and that's just a little trick I learned. I tried it 1 year, and it was immediate that it worked. But the key is you got to soak your ground first, put your cardboard down, set something in your cardboard so it doesn't blow away, and after 4 or 5 days, haul the cardboard off. Look what happens. It's absolutely mind-boggling. So again, we're way early right now, but let's do a thinning. And it's dry, so they don't want to pull too great. So, I mean, for this time of year, it's not bad. I mean, we're the 1st of August. I usually don't have them till the end of September. So, it's really good. If you grew up on a farm, I just passed these through the washing machine. There's nothing like it. So try some carrots, you guys. You will not regret it, I promise. So we were going to another part of the garden, but we figured we'd check out the last little batch of cucumbers we have here. And you can tell these are not trellised. So you saw where I had some up on a trellis. They don't have to be. This is just planted direct seed, and they're growing like crazy. The flowers inside of here, I mean, check that out. There's going to be hundreds. You got little ones here. I mean, they get bigger as you go. They get even bigger as you go. So again, nice European purplish cucumber, great to do. But the reason I wanted to show you guys over here, this is a volunteer potato. What's a volunteer? Well, having grown up on that potato farm, there was always volunteers, meaning some that might have stayed in from last year. So I'm just gonna pick it and it'll become part of supper. So look at that. This planted itself, but now we've got part of supper this evening from a volunteer. So we want to thank the Mother Nature out there for part of supper tonight. And then the tops and stuff will just go right back into the soil. I didn't put wood chips here yet, but this will all be wood chips laid down to cover up any weeds. So again, take up every inch of space, even volunteers. So here's a good example of what I was talking about with my mulch. And you can see where we mulched everywhere is where there can't be any garden. But got our wood chips, works our way down to our cardboard. And look at that, the grass is dying. Actually, this is dead underneath. You can actually dig into the grass just like soil. So it's doing exactly what we want. It's mulching your garden, making gardening easier and more enjoyable. So here are a couple of perennials. So what's a perennial? Comes back every year, plant it once, forget it. So here, something you definitely see in the store, asparagus. Asparagus is the easiest thing to grow. It's also probably the best thing you've ever had fresh. You know how you could have it in the store sometimes and it's woody and it's, you know, good, but could be better. We eat this right out of the garden. You break it off like a string bean. It is amazing. So they come in crowns. They look like Medusa's hair. They're just long. The crowns and the roots are about that long, and they've just got tendrils. You dig a trench, lay them out, cover them, and in first year, this is what they come out as. You can see I mulched around them. Keeps the moisture in, keeps the weeds at bay, and next year we'll be able to kind of pick one or two from the patch, and the following year we'll be able to pick full pin. But you want to give it a couple of years for your bed to establish before you're picking full pin, because you want those crowns to really take. Next to it, another perennial. Who doesn't know or love a fresh raspberry? Again, everybody's grandmother had a raspberry patch growing up. That's how it was. You had your raspberry pies and such. So these were planted this time last year. Kind of the wrong time to plant them. That's not when you plant them. But that's when somebody dropped off the plants to me, was this time of year, because they were thinning. And mulched them, you can see, with some pine needles. Pine needles work great. They're very acidic, but that's okay because raspberries love acidic soil. So raspberries and blueberries, that's their thing. So you plant those, they need a lot of water because of when I planted them, but by putting the pine needles, it really helped them retain that moisture. So next year, I'm guessing these were a little stunted this year because, again, it's just their first year. They're going to grow maybe another foot this year, and then next year we'll have a couple of pints of raspberries coming out of this patch. Won't be a lot, but it'll be something to make a pie with or eat with some cream and a little sugar. So don't be afraid. Try some raspberries. Don't go buy your plants. You can if you want. You know, we got 2 greenhouses in town, Corvos and Pelletiers, that have great root stock. But if you're not in a position to buy any, find someone with a raspberry patch, and in the fall, go dig some of the shoots out. That's the little ones that are coming out of the ground, and plant them. You won't regret it. So raspberries, get them planted. You won't regret it. While we were at it, blueberries were on sale. So I had some really poor ground, rocky, stagnant ground. I mean, even grass doesn't grow in it. I mean, you can see next to it where, you know, there's this mossy, I don't even know what this is. It's like a cedar bush on the ground. No smell to it. Also, anytime you see these little strawberry plants, the wild strawberry plants, it's an indicator that the ground's probably not that great. That's just a rule of thumb. So I said, hey, let's throw some blueberries in. So we've got what's called high bush blueberries. So this is what this is here. We've got some Chandler, we've got Cabernet, we've got some Jerseys, Patriots, and you'll see where some of the bushes are full. It's a more mature plant, and they're very much not close to ready, but close to ready. As my son said, they look ready, but they're super sour. So we're gonna give them another day or two. And then as you see, again, they don't like it dry, but they don't like it wet. So I mulched it with wood chips. So it's just enough to keep some moisture in, and I don't have to come down here and water every other day. It keeps just enough moisture in to keep the plants green. There's varying sizes. This is a 3-year plant. And then as you go up the row, you get into a 1-year plant, and they're probably a quarter of the size. But they'll come over time, and I've got more space down below that I'm going to till up next year and put some more in. So again, blueberries are easy. You buy some plants at your local garden center and throw them in. You got nothing to lose by trying. And they also like acidic soil. So if you're one that thinks, oh, my soil's not any good, perfect. Grab yourself some blueberries and make it happen. So who doesn't like a strawberry? I don't know anybody who doesn't like a strawberry. If you don't like a strawberry, I apologize. Come see me and I'll let you try some really amazing ones. We'll change your mind. But strawberries are not something you always see in a garden. We all go to the strawberry farms. Grow them. It's easy. You don't buy seeds like you normally would a string bean or a pea or a lettuce seed. They come in crowns or in plants. So you've got your crown and then the roots underneath. They're called bare root plants. So I order them they come in 25 per bunch. So this year I said, you know what? We're starting a small strawberry farm. It's going to take a year or so to get it up and running because they're never ready that year. They're ready the next year after planting, and then you're good for 5, 6, 7 years. But I said we're gonna go full pin with that. So I bought 500 plants, and again, others think I'm crazy for it, but go big or go home. And well, since I'm already home, I went big. So you plant them a few feet apart. They like water. And then right now they're doing what's called making runners or setting runners. So you know, when you see on the strawberry farms, their row is full and lush and covered. So the reason for that is because the runners have filled in. So here's the main plant. This is what we planted back, I think it was June 1 I planted these, June 1 or 2. So you leave them in there. Takes forever, it feels like, for them to grow some green leaves, and then all of a sudden they just come to life. So now we're a couple months in and they're sending out runners. Well, what's a runner? A runner is just a simple name for a baby plant. So rather than buying 10,000 in regular plants, you buy a few and then it'll make you babies. So your runner runs out of the plant. Well, if you wouldn't set your runner or place them where you want them, they would just run amok. They would be everywhere. They would kind of do their own thing. So you have to go set them. And you set them, it's kind of an art because you can't set them too close, too far. They'll fill in too much. So you want to set them 5, 6 inches apart if possible. And then after that, your runner, which you see here, makes a runner. So it's an endless process, which is great. What a beast of a thing to invest in that just keeps investing back in you. So you got your runner and it creates a runner. So I'll set this one down. We'll show you this one here. So here, this one has set itself. So this runner came out of the plant. It's now rooted in there. So the way you do that, you take your runner. This is a brand new runner. And I'm going to want it here, right in the middle of these two plants because there's a fairly big distance. I kind of roughen the ground just a hair. You lay it where you want. There's 2 ways you can do this. I don't have a lot of rocks on the ground. But you take a little stone and you put it right near the plant, just to weight it down onto the ground. What's then going to happen, and Don, maybe this one, I don't know if you can see there, but right here, this is where the roots start. The roots start right out the bottom of the runner, and you can see the little roots. So what your plan is you put it where you want it, and the roots will go into the ground and establish a plant, and then at that point, another runner will come out, and you'll just keep adding them to the open holes. If it gets to the point where, okay, voila, as we would say in French, that's enough, then you cut your runners. You don't have to let them keep running. You bring your scissors down or a knife, or you can just snip them off with your thumb and index finger, but you can always just start cutting them. I never usually have that problem because what I do is I space them a little bit more apart when I'm planting them to start. That way I know my runners will fill in and it gives me more strawberries in the end. So don't be afraid, just try strawberries. This kind right here, big leaves, big strawberries, they're referred to as Cavendish. It's a great straw. It's almost a foolproof strawberry. They'll grow anywheres. I've got another kind down below. They're a little smaller. They're still just as good, but Cavendish will grow in the middle of your driveway. I mean, they grow anywheres. You'll also see here where I've got some straw. This was a learning experience this year. So I said, you know what, it's been dry and I want to conserve moisture. So I bought some straw bales and I did a nice job, mulched all around each plant. It was gorgeous. It looked like something out of a book, out of a magazine. And then I started having some greenery show up. And I said, whoa, I don't have weeds in my garden usually. Well, it was oats. Oats started growing, or wheat, whatever type of straw it was, started coming up. So when you have straw, you'll usually have some sort of a oat or wheat seed mixed in with it. That's fine. In the wintertime, it'll die. It won't come back because that's just what happens. But it wasn't helping me be able to establish my runners because it was taking up the place where my runners were going to go. So again, it happens, seasoned gardener or not. You're going to make these little whoopsies. So I pulled all the straw off and now setting my runners. And then what I'll do is I'll take that straw and I'll cover the plants before winter, because you're going to want to cover your plants for winter. Does it make a difference? I believe so, because they're very susceptible to frost. So if you can cover them with 2-3 inches of something, and in the spring just kind of fluff them away a little bit and your plants will do fine. Also between my rows is, you'll see wood chips. So there's 3-4 inches of wood chips here. Reason for this: no mowing, no tilling, no weeding in between the beds. Helps with erosion, helps with moisture control. I'm on a hill here, so we got easy chance for erosion to happen. So by putting this here, it stops any down pours from taking out the beds, the gardens, and the main thing is weeds. Underneath it, I've got cardboard. I've got a couple layers of cardboard under there. Cardboard will break down, and by the end of the year, it's already gone. But what it does is suppresses the weeds and the grass, because I just put this right over the grass. I mowed, put the cardboard, took my tractor and laid down some wood chips. Problem solved. You'll see where there's no weeds at all. So again, don't be afraid. Try something new, and you're not going to regret it. Even if it's just in a little raised bed. Buy some strawberry plants, throw them in. They'll do great in a raised bed. I've seen them done in gutters, old gutters. You take an old gutter, you plant them in there, and you water them that way, and then the runners will grow over the sides of the gutter. So there's more than one way to do it. So give them a try. You won't regret it. So here we have a true St. John Valley staple. If you've ever had a chicken stew and ploys, you had summer savory in your chicken stew. If you guys and gals could smell what this smells like right now, it's absolute heaven. So yeah, this is your summer savory in its infancy stage, but this too overnight is just going to turn into something just huge. It'll be bushes this tall. So you let it come up another foot or so, but you want to pick it prior to the flowers. So it gets these nice little blue flowers. Now on that same note, do I ever do that? Nope. Because it all comes at once, and I'll come down here and they'll be gone to flower. So I guess the rule of thumb is pick them when you can, and don't be afraid to pick them when you can. But yeah, that's what this is. They're gorgeous this year. They're full, they're lush. Again, don't be fooled. I've weeded these. They're tough to weed because they take so long to germinate. The seed is half the size of a head of a pin, and one handful is enough to plant about 3 acres. So hence why it looks so dense and highly packed, this plot. It's because it's hard to plant them without overplanting. And I could thin them, but I don't want to, because you know what? They're so good and it's so hard to come by that, hey, you'll just get a little smaller plant is all that's going to happen. It won't hurt the quality. So you see over here to the left, we've got some more asparagus. Again, interplanting, using up as much room as we can. It was not my best ground. It was kind of a very dense soil, hard. So I said, let's throw some asparagus in. It was a great move. You can see how well it's doing. For year one, it's fantastic. So use up as much room as you can. And I'll tell you what, that's a true delicacy. Once asparagus is ready, there's nothing like it. But the thing to know is try some summer savory. It's a little labor intensive, but nothing scary. Again, it takes a while to germinate, but once you're ready to pick it, it's super easy. I'll sacrifice one here because I'll bring it up and dry it. So you can see what the plant looks like here. It's a fairly big plant. It looks like it's a lot of plants together, but it's just they get a lot of branches to them. Great root system. So when it comes to drying them, what I do is I'll pull these bunches out, and I don't have my knife on me, but I cut the roots off, bunch them together, usually a nice bunch size of your hand, and you let them dry, hanging in your garage, in your basement, in your stairwell, wherever you have room for them to dry. And it takes a good month to dry. It's not that hard to clean, but it's a little time consuming. So there's a few ways you can do it. You can grab the branch and you can pull the leaves off like that, and then you've got the leaves in your hand. It's one way. Once they're all dry, clean your countertop real good, your table, lay them down, take a rolling pin, go over them with a rolling pin. Then you can take the stalk out, clean off the few that are left on the stalk, and you've got your leaves left right there. Again, that's a grandmother trick that I was taught. Works fantastic. Don Raymond's going to go home and try it as soon as we're done with this here. So yeah, so again, it's all about making it easier. Don't overthink this stuff. You can take it in your hands and just roll back and forth too, and they'll fall below. One thing to note with summer savory is if you've ever cooked with it, so here's your leaf. This is what's going to come off. So Don, I don't know how well you can get in on that. So when they're drying and you crush them, what you'll find sometimes is this little piece of stem will be left in your stuff. Doesn't hurt anything. Put it in your stew. It floats on the top of your stew, or you can take the time to pick it out. It's a royal pain in the rear, but it doesn't hurt anything. So that's why when you see summer savory for sale and it's, you know, $8, $9, $10 for a little packet, just the time going into it is absolutely out of this world. So you're paying for labor is what you're paying for, because it is time consuming. But you know what? If you need some, we always have some, and we're going to grow more and more and more for the years to come. And again, yeah, it's going to last. My son just reminded me, you know, it's going to last. This will last 2, 3, 4 years in your pantry. Put it in a coffee can, in a Ziploc bag, a zippered container or whatnot. But stuffing and chicken stew is not stuffing and chicken stew without summer savory. So if you guys want any, we always have some till it runs out, and it goes quick. So let us know, but give it a try. So another thing, while we're standing here, I'm just going to point down here. So this is an established asparagus patch to an extent, because I like to throw stuff in randomly. So these are 2 new plants from this year because I had a little more room in the row. So I threw a couple in, but this is an established row. We ate some this spring, and you can see where this week I started mulching with some straw because it's really dry right now. So I wanted some moisture retention. So we got the straw going in. I had more room as I trip over some rocks. I threw in some more summer Savory because, you know what, why not? We're there, might as well put it in. So if there's room, we'll use it. But yeah, you know what? Mulching is your best friend. Don't be afraid to mulch. I'm going to mulch the rest of this new asparagus this weekend. And it does a great job of loosening the soil, but moisture retention. So last but not least, we'll go up and we'll see a couple of nice rows of potatoes where we've also adapted to mulching them. And it's helping with two things: moisture retention and less hoeing or hilling, because we got some long rows here, and at the end of the day, your back thanks you if you use mulch. So let's go check those out. So here we've got a couple of rows of potatoes, and this year we hilled them up really good, but I just knew that it was going to be dry. So what I do is I collect extra leaves throughout the fall and I keep them in their bags. And then this time of year, I come and I put them in between. So if you dig down, and I'll show you what I mean, you can see where they're black, they're falling apart. They've got what's called leaf mold, and leaf mold is just the best nutrient ever for your garden. It's absolutely amazing. It just does things to your soil that you can't imagine. So we got those put around the plants, up in the plants. So potatoes, if they come out of the ground at all, they'll get green. They'll get green shoulders, meaning the top that's showing gets green. So this helps prevent that too, and just eliminates some of the work, and hopefully in the end yields bigger and better potatoes. And that's what we want in the end. So don't be afraid. Mulch, mulch, mulch. Keeps your weeds down. Look, I mean, there's no weeds here whatsoever. And I mean, this is oak leaves and maple leaves, and in the middle there's some straw, there's some pine needles. Pine needles you don't want to use in excess because they can be a little on the acidic side. But you know what? If you have some mixed in your pile, don't worry about that. That's not going to hurt a thing whatsoever. But yeah, well established couple of rows of potatoes here. And again, it's all seed that was saved of our own and didn't have to buy any seed. If I ever buy seed, it's because I want to try a different potato that I've never tried before. So yeah, it's amazing. Up behind us too, I mean, just goes to show that everyone appreciates a nice garden. We've got a little rabbit here. I don't know, Don, you able to see our little rabbit friend? So, you know what, just goes to show that everyone appreciates some nature, even the rabbits. So yeah, so that's our potatoes and a little bit of mulching for you guys. So again, just want to thank you guys all for joining us. We enjoy doing these types of videos with Don and WFK TV. It's nice that they're able to get this type of info out to people, really so we can enjoy and learn about our heritage, and then some cool things that we may not think about. So don't be overwhelmed. What I want you to take away from this is start small. Don't start like this. This is over the top. This is once you've been doing it for a while. This takes practice, and lots of practice and time. I mean, my time will be, it's not rare for me to take a vehicle and park it down here with the headlights on the garden and work in the dark. So don't start big, start small, ask for help. Don't be afraid. Me, for example, call me, Facebook message, text, stop by. I love showing off and talking gardening, so I'll help you. My kids will help you. I mean, everyone's really got their knowledge about them, especially the kids. They're really learning a lot just by being associated with it. I mean, they're learning just by being here. So yeah, start small. Don't overthink it either. I mean, everyone thinks you have to do by the book. You don't have to do it by the book. You don't have to buy a special seeder to plant stuff. You make a row with a hoe, you sprinkle your seeds in, and you can cover them with your foot. We'll get you here sometime maybe to look at how we do some planting. It's very much easy, no frills. I do use a seeder from time to time, but other times it's just a matter of getting the stuff in the ground because the rain's coming, so you don't have time for seeders and doodads and gadgets. Water is key. They like water. don't let your stuff dry out. That's kind of the key. When you see stuff start to yellow, and you can know it's a little dry right now. I mean, even here we got some cucumbers with a little bit of yellow tinge to them. They are struggling right now, but we haven't had rain for some time, and it's been 80s and 90s for the past week and a half. So we're getting by though. So yeah, so don't overthink it. Water, start small, ask for help, plant things you like. Everyone wants to try something cool. I don't know how many new gardeners try watermelon. Don't plant watermelon in Fort Kent. Don't even try. When you see those plants at Lowe's on the shelf, it's because Lowe's just gets plants by the truckload. Don't waste your money. Unless you're doing it in a greenhouse, something like that, you are not going to get watermelon. Your watermelon will be the size of a baseball, if that. Plant carrots, plant cucumbers, plant a string bean. Those will grow, I promise you. Plant a sunflower. You can see the sunflowers on either side of me. You know, they do great here. And the ones you see are volunteers. I didn't even plant these. They grew from last year, or the birds brought them in. But we let them be part of the garden because why not? They look great. And yeah, so definitely plant things you like. And don't be afraid to call a friend, get your kids involved, but don't do it in a way that it's a job. I do remember growing up sometimes like, okay, we have to go weed the garden right now. Man, oh man, there was nothing more stressful than, oh, I gotta go weed the garden now. You know, that's the worst thing you can do. It's, like I said, when you go to the garden, bend over, pick a weed or two. Don't do any more than that. You don't have to. Do them whenever you come down, but make it fun for the kids, you know. Don't make it a chore, because then it's not something they'll do when they're older, which I think is why we're where we're at right now, why you don't see everybody with a garden. You don't even, right now we've got a few farmers markets around, and we're actually having a hard time to get people to come to the farmers markets because we don't have enough people doing at-home gardening or small-scale farming. So again, start with something you like, start with something random that you know will grow. Try some strawberries, and it's really, you won't regret it. Try some garlic. You want to do the easiest thing on the face of the earth. Plant garlic. It'll grow and you don't touch it. You plant it and you don't see it for 9 months. Try something like that. Let me know. I got the best seed around. I'm not afraid to say that. I know it's spectacular. But yeah, so thank you everybody. Glad you could be a part of this. Hope it was informative, and we're glad to have you on the Malmborg family farm.